we'll go with it. But Alan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's a pleasure to speak to you, and I'm glad that you managed to make some time out of your evening just to come on and talk a little bit about music. Before we get started, though, how are you actually doing?
Well, I'm doing just great. Thank you very much. I'm touring the UK at the moment, going everywhere you can imagine. We started down in London, and then we shot across to Dublin, in the Midlands, down to Penzance, and we'll be up in Aberdeen very soon, and Glasgow, of course, and Edinburgh. So some of my favourite places in the world we're getting a chance to visit.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm actually situated right between Glasgow and Edinburgh.
I'll be driving past you. I'll give you a wave, Ian.
That's fine. But Alan, we're going to talk about all things music for yourself. So influences when you were growing up, learning your instrument, just your thoughts and opinions on different musical things. But going back to the very beginning, where were you originally brought up?
Originally, I actually come from a place in Western Australia called Perth, and of course there is a Perth in Scotland. So many places in Australia are named after UK names. But I come from this little city called Perth, with maybe a population of about 1 million, and I grew up in a blissful sort of, sun-drenched, surfy atmosphere. And I'll just move the camera slightly, sorry. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful upbringing, and had a fantastic time. But then I obviously had to move as an actor, I had to move to the eastern states of Australia, where the bigger cities have got the most work.
Yeah. So when you were younger, were you exposed to music from a young age?
Well, I was, yeah, very much so. My older brother was 2.5 years older than me, and so his music tastes became mine. So the very first album I bought, the first vinyl I bought, I should start with my first single. My first single I bought, 45, was Eleanor by the Turtles.
Right.
And the flip side was Surfer Dan. It was a beautiful song. And then I bought an album by Canned Heat, the Canned Heat cookbook.
Right.
I love blues.
Yeah, Canned Heat band.
Yeah, so I was listening to Canned Heat, I was listening to John Mayall, I was listening to Eric Clapton, of course, I was listening to Cream, Eric Clapton being part of Cream, all of the great 60s bands, obviously the Beatles, and as they developed, listening to all their work, the Rolling Stones, and then towards the late 60s, I started to move towards other people like Elton John, of course. Saw Elton John in 1974 in Perth. So I also love bands like Deep Purple. So basically rock was my strong, probably my biggest, strongest kind of attraction for a band was The Doors, I would say.
Alan, The Doors are my favourite band.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I was just intoxicated by The Doors. I used to go to parties, Ian, and everyone else would be drinking and talking and chatting away, and I would lie on the floor and put 2 speakers either side of my head and listen to Celebration of the Lizard, which is about 13 minutes, 13 and a half minutes, or the End or something like that, which the 16-minute tracks. I love The Doors. It's a magic band.
The Doors was my dad's favourite band, and obviously he then got me onto them. And even to this day, you think about it, the last album came out 1971.
Yep.
There has never been another band that has sounded anything nearly like them since then. That's how unique they were as a band.
That's right. Everything was unique. I mean, they borrowed Kurt Weill's songs, Show Me the Way to the Next Whiskey Bar, and just very, very clever. Backdoor Man was a great rock song. Then you get Roadhouse Blues, beautiful blues song. And then, of course, they did that, the magical album where they used the orchestral influences. I think when I think back on that catalogue, there isn't a band like them. There's no question.
Yeah, and they're the only one of those few bands that the 4 individuals are the magic ingredients that made that band. You remove any one of them, it doesn't work. But those 4 individuals together, maybe when there wasn't so much drugs or alcohol, when they were focused, they were unstoppable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting reading about them because, of course, the band, as apart from Jim, were actually incredibly focused musicians.
Yeah,
And Jim was amazing. I mean, he was a poet, a brilliant poet, and a brilliant writer. But he was kind of the wild card in the pack. I did actually see the Doors later in life in the UK at the Empire in. Well, I can't even think where it was, Manchester or somewhere, where they had a guest lead singer. And it was a wonderful show, and the
yeah.
music was really, really tight. But, to have seen Jim Morrison would have been the thing.
Oh yeah, it would have been outstanding. But for your own music, so I know that you sing and you also play the guitar. Which one of those did you learn to do first?
Well, I've always been a rudimentary guitarist, I'll be honest about that. My mum bought me a guitar when I was about 14, and I was self-taught. Basically, three chords and the truth was always my way of approaching music. But, I'm a rhythm guitarist, I would say you would call me. Of late, I'm spending quite a bit of time now working on lead guitar and mastering a little bit more of that because I love finger picking.
Right.
And
Okay.
for country music, which is what I play now, it's the finger picking style is what I'm aiming for. But also just being solid as a rhythm performer.
Yeah. Out of singing and playing the guitar, which one are you most comfortable doing?
I'm more comfortable singing, I'll be honest. I have to make one of my great mentors is a record producer in Australia, Damien Caffarella, who's an incredible guitarist. And as he said to me, Fletch, when you're playing gigs and you're singing and playing guitar at the same time, one of them has to be completely automatic.
Yeah.
And basically, ideally, the guitar is completely automatic. You don't even have to think about what you're doing, and then you can just concentrate on the singing. So, for me, the singing is the bit that involves the emotion and the real passion, and the guitar hopefully is automatic.
So what is your method for writing a song? Do you have a preferred method?
Most of my songs start with lyrics.
Right.
Like everybody else, I have an iPhone full of notes about songs.
Yep.
My guitarist Riley Catherall actually says that the iPhone notes section is where songs go to die because they get started and never finished. But
Yep.
I have on my computer, I have many folders of songs that I've started somewhere along the way. I have great collaborators in Lachlan Bryan and Damien Caffarella, and that allows me to go to them with songs that are almost finished, and they help me polish them. In terms of music, I think I do rely sometimes on some of the great musicians I work with to help me make the songs a little bit more intrinsically musically interesting than perhaps I have the ability to do. But that's I love collaborating, so that's a great thing.
It's amazing that you say that. I play guitar and sing, but I'm the complete opposite away around from yourself. I've always got to do the music first, and I might
Right.
have a vocal melody in my head, but the lyrics for me always comes last.
It's interesting you say that because when I was playing rock music and writing in rock music, I was actually exactly like you. The band and I would come together and we'd put together a melody or a rhythm, and I would decide out of that how I felt and what made me feel and what lyrics actually came from that.
I mean, that is the beauty of music, is that there is no right or wrong. It's different for each person, but it's still the great thing about music. There's no right or wrong to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that matters is the final product. And otherwise, words that have been said to me is that people often spend far too much time polishing a song up and always being nervous that it's not ready. And in fact, in many cases, they should just jump in, record it, and just get it out there. We can waste a lot of time second guessing our songs.
Yeah. So, see if you had to choose between writing and recording a song or only performing the song live, which one would you choose?
I think probably performing live because you have an opportunity to introduce a song live. and talk to the audience about it. And so that gives you the opportunity for them to sit back and tell you how they feel about the song later, because you can contextualise the song, so it doesn't just come out of the ether. This latest tour, in fact, there's a few of my songs that I've surprised people. I've been surprised because people have loved them more than they have. You know, we all look at our likes, and we all look at our number of streams and so forth for certain songs. But a lot of the songs that aren't necessarily streamed as much as others are liked more in gigs when people hear the context.
The other thing is songs can evolve live. So you've got a recorded version, but that might just be the starting point, and the song can go off in a different route live.
Absolutely. How many times have we gone to see one of our favourite artists? I mean, Bob Dylan's a classic example. I saw Bob Dylan on the Rolling Thunder tour, and sometimes he'd start a song and you'd look at the person next to you and go, what song's this? And you realise he was playing Lay Lady Lay, but he was just doing a completely different arrangement.
And I would imagine the other thing that you'll probably find being on tour is that there'll be songs in the studio that when you're writing and recording them, you'll think maybe in your head that this is going to be the crowd favourite, and 9 times out of 10 it's a completely other song that, I don't want to call it a filler, but it's a song that surprises you, the crowd just grasps hold of it, and the song that you thought might be the favourite almost gets overlooked. It's weird how people pick up on different songs.
Totally, and I have found that many, many occasions. In particular, songs that as you said, fillers. You know, every album's probably got them, but songs that I've recorded where I thought, I'm not completely sure this is, that great a song, and then the review of the album will come out, and that song will be reviewed as being brilliant. So you go, okay, well, you can't account for anything.
What about then? Same question: music and acting. If you had to pick just one of them?
Well, it's a really interesting thing. I've always said that I can't choose because I'm an entertainer, and as an entertainer, your acting is the same as your music. Of late, though, I've kind of changed my mind on that, because when you're a musician, you're telling stories, and when you're an actor, you're telling stories. But most of the time, as an actor, you're telling somebody else's story.
Right. Okay.
It's a script. Whereas when you're a musician, you're telling your own, and you're telling a 3 or 4 minute story. And so in an evening, you can tell 15 stories. Yep. It's marvellous.
Yeah. So you're on tour the UK just now. I know that you're going to be Friday the 2nd of August. You're at the Oran Moor in Glasgow.
Yep.
I actually found out the other day that your support act is a girl called Robin Red.
Yes, she's marvellous.
And Robin was actually on the podcast just a few weeks ago.
Nice.
So it's just a coincidence there. But some of her stuff's really good. She's up and coming, but she's, looks great. She's a great performer. She's got the guitar skills, the vocals, the songs are there. She's got the whole package. So it's going to be a really big for anybody going along to the Oran Moor. And if you don't get tickets, they can go online and buy the tickets as well.
Yeah, I love the venue. We had a smash-up gig there last year, so I hope people do come out and support it. Yep. They'll love Robin Red. I love Riley Catherall, who's with me as well. Wonderful solo artist who's also playing with me. And, of course, they can come and see us in Glasgow if they choose as well. We're on the 1st of August at Bannerman's down in Glasgow.
Yeah, we want everybody to go online. You've got your social media, they can get the links for the tickets, they can go and get them, but we're halfway through 2024, so what is the plans for the remainder of the year?
Right, well, I get home late August from touring and holidays. Then September will be writing month for me, September and October. Then I hope to be in the studio November and December working on all the new material for release in 2025, ahead of my next tour here, which I hope to be probably around the similar time next year.
And in the recording studio, do you have a preferred way that you like to record? So that, for example, there'll be a lot of bands will record the drums first, and then they'll layer everything on top of it, so bass, guitars. There's other musicians like to record maybe the rhythm section live and then do overdubs. What's the preferred way for yourself?
Well, in most cases, my songs are built. I work with 2 producers, and most of the time they're built with the one of the producers is a multi-instrumentalist.
Right.
So he generally will start with drums,
Right.
drums and then bass. And then we'll start to layer acoustic instruments on top of that, or electric guitars, slide guitars, and so forth. Vocals will probably come last,
Yeah.
and then obviously it comes down to subtracting or adding. But you might fly in a fiddle part or something like that.
Yeah.
And as you getting towards a mix, so there have been times where I've actually sat back and said, you know what, I'd like to re-record this. I reckon I want to change the key.
All right. Okay.
So, you know what
So
I mean? It's kind of like
as you get used to
it's not until you get all the elements. Yeah, but generally we're very efficient. We work very much to the policy that we can generally record a song in a day.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going into the recording studio prepared.
Absolutely, very prepared. And we don't necessarily always go in with a fixed idea of how it's going to sound, though. We often do talk about, I think a lot of people do this, we often do talk about kind of stylistically about what is this song like? I mean, what's the feel? Has it got a sort of a Guy Clark Desperados waiting for a train feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of, is it a John Prine feel? So that we can actually find musically how we want the song to sound, and that will then, of course, affect how you sing it. I mean, you'll sing songs in the tone of the way it's recorded.
Yeah. So, Alan, we've been quite technical with our music chat up to this point. So, before we end things, I'd like to ask a few fun questions for yourself.
Of course.
So, imagine you could go back in time, anywhere in the world. What's the one concert, big or small, that you wish you could have attended?
Well, is I attended or attended again? This becomes the question, isn't it?
That's up to you.
Yeah, I would, if I could go back, I would go back to about 1974 when I saw Led Zeppelin.
Wow!
And I saw Led Zeppelin play at a football stadium in Perth. And the reason I want to go back is I was a school student and I went with a mate of mine, and when we sat down, there was just a few people in dark shapes moving on the stage, the roadies.
Yeah.
And then there was no prelude, there was nothing going on. All that happened was suddenly the lights smashed up and the band started in full force with Jimmy Page playing the riff from Immigrant Song, and you could see the sound come at you. It was that strong. It hit you like a wall. And it was like that all night. It was crystal clear. It was beautiful. But the reason I want to go back is because my mate, they got to the end, they did an encore, and then he said, we should get going. They're not going to come back again. So, and we left, and we had time to get out of the stadium, and then suddenly they came back and played again. I missed the last two songs of the set. In the encore, I never forgave him, and I said I have to see Led Zeppelin again one day. Well, I did get to see Robert Plant again years and years and years later, and he's absolutely marvellous. Yeah,
his solo stuff's really good as well because it's so different from Led Zeppelin as well.
Yeah, and his work with Alison Krauss is in my field in country music is fantastic.
I mean, I would probably argue and say his vocals are actually better now than they were 30, 40 years ago, which is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, now, of course, I think you're right. I think that then he was very much in the full rock and roll, high vocal mode, whereas now he uses his full range of his voice and a lot more subtlety, I think, in it. Yeah. And there's a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom in Robert Plant's voice.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that thing. You can only get it through getting older, through time. You can't teach it. You either get it over the years or you don't. But another question for you. As you know, Alan, there's millions of amazing, great songs have been recorded over the years. What's the one song that you wish you could have sat in the recording studio to witness it being recorded by the band?
Wow. Well, this is really screamingly obvious. I mean, besides any Doors song, because that would have been remarkable. It would just be Imagine with John Lennon. I'm in Liverpool as I'm speaking to you now, Ian, and I love you. I love the city. I love coming here. And I was actually doing down at the Beatles Story down by the docks. And when you do the Beatles Story, you come to the very end, and it's just a white piano, and Imagine's playing. And I just sat down there, and I a tear rolled down my cheek because I just thought that the assassination of John Lennon was the worst thing that I could have imagined at the time, and so his music will always live with me. And that particular song, I think, has been a landmark song in the history of music.
Yeah, I mean, in 50 years' time, when we're both long gone, that song will still continue on and inspire generations for years and years to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that I think when they were recording the White Album and albums like that, and they were using a 4-track recorder, to have seen that would have been incredible. In fact, I did actually see a fantastic YouTube video where they recreated the conditions of the Beatles recording sessions. They had wonderful bands. I think the Kaiser Chiefs were one of the bands, and they had to go in and re-record a Beatles song using just the 4-track.
Yeah.
And they found out just how spectacularly difficult it was to keep bouncing tracks, to record them and then keep bouncing them so that you could free up more tracks.
It's one of those. Sorry, I was going to say it's one of those things that I always think with bands from the 60s and the 70s, because the recording equipment they were using was so primitive, it forced the bands into being as creative as possible in the studio to get the best out of what they had available to them at the time. And I almost think that today it can cause bands or musicians to get lazy, because the studio, you can pretty much do whatever you want in it now, but it doesn't always make it better.
No, I agree with you. I mean, the classic example of A Day in the Life, the Beatles song, where they wanted that sort of sense of an explosion at the end, they actually got it by finding this massive piano chord. And the song would not be the same if it had been tricked up in some way. It was the simplicity of it that made it.
I think I might know the answer to this one, but you play the guitar, you do the vocals. Is there an instrument that you wish that you could play?
Oh, I wish I could play piano. My beautiful wife Jennifer, she plays beautiful keyboards, and she sings in the band with me as well and plays with me.
Right.
But I'd love to be able to play piano, because I think when I see my son actually plays piano, and when I see Jen and my son play piano, I sort of think I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, and then obviously everybody will know you from Neighbours. You've been in Neighbours since 1994, 30 years. I looked this up earlier. So third longest serving actor in Australian TV history, only behind Ray Meagher and Lynn McGranger from Home and Away.
That's right.
So that is some shift to put on at work.
Well, to be honest with you, we work to 1-year contracts on Neighbours, and most other shows are the same. And so, yes, I've been there 30 years, but it's every year it could be the end of it. So I never think about it in terms of like how long will this go for, or what's the future hold. I mean, if Neighbours ended, I'd just do something else. I'd probably be on the road a bit more. So
you have, out of all of that time, is there one particular storyline that stands out from the rest that was your favourite?
Oh, well, yeah, I think so. I think probably we did an episode in London, or more than one episode, about 3 or 4 episodes, where myself and my stage wife, Susan Kennedy, and my ex-lover, Isabel Hoyland, played by Natalie Bassingthwaighte, we all went to London. Karl proposed to Susan again, and then we got married on the Thames. It was an incredible episode. As Karl and Susan said I do to each other, Izzy turns up and has a baby on the boat, and it actually turned out it was Karl's baby. It was just marvellous. It was magical to shoot it and do it. really special. And to be able to work in the UK, basically to say thank you to the UK fans. We had Julian Clary in the episode, Sir Michael Parkinson, you name it. It was a fantastic stuff.
And very last question for you, Alan. Who is your Mount Rushmore of bands? So whether it be performance, whether it be songwriting, whether it just be the overall package, who's the 4 bands or musicians for yourself you put at the top of your pile as being perfect?
Perfect's an interesting sort of notion, isn't it? I mean, are there bands ever that were perfect?
Perfect for you?
Yeah, perfect for me. Well, perfect for me is John Prine, because John's music is not complicated. It's beautifully played, but it's not complicated. But because in his music, he manages to combine whimsy with comedy, with poignancy. He's just any John Prine song I hear, I feel like I'm home.
Yeah,
and he's my go-to. Yeah.
That's fine. Alan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you all your future dates in the UK, and I'll try and get myself along to one of the gigs, whether it be this tour or the next time you're on tour. We'll keep in touch. Anybody that's looking for tickets for any up-and-coming gigs, they can get you on social media. The links are there. They can go on, buy tickets, show up and show their support for yourself.
Yeah, and my website also, alanfletcher.net, has got all the links as well, so it's easy.
That's great. But enjoy the rest of your evening, Alan, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, mate. Lovely to chat.